Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on CBS News Chicago. I'm Joe Donlin.
And I'm Erica Sargent. Breaking right now, migrants that arrived in Texas have now been bused here to Chicago and are at Union Station. This as Texas Governor Greg Abbott sent out a tweet making the announcement that they were on their way.
CBS 2's Marybel González is there now at Union Station with the latest. Marybel, set the scene for us there. What's happening?
Yes, it happened very fast, Joe and Erica. We saw just about maybe 20 minutes ago, it was about 24 to 30 people being dropped off here at Union Station. Among the group, pregnant women, children, even babies. We spoke to a few of them. They've made the journey. They left Texas, I should say, through Eagle Pass yesterday at 5 p.m. and they arrived here at Union Station, like we mentioned, just about 20 to 30 minutes ago. I did speak to some of those immigrants who are traveling here to Chicago. They told me some of them have made the journey, 2 months long journey from Venezuela to get to that Texas border. A lot of it involved walking through jungle, treacherous conditions. Many of them said they were robbed in the process during their journey to make it to Texas. And they also told us that when they arrived to Texas, they were given some of them were given the option to either go to New York City, Washington, D.C., and now Chicago. I did speak to someone else who said they really weren't given a choice, so it's unclear how that process came to be, but they are here now in the city of Chicago, again, dropped off just about 20 to 30 minutes ago here at Union Station.
And Marybel, what are you hearing about the services and the assistance that they will receive once they got to Union Station? What organizations were there to get them to the next stage?
Yeah, there were a couple of people here who were from a nonprofit organization, but they did say they were here on behalf of the city. They wouldn't specify the name of the organization. They said this is to protect the privacy of the immigrants who just arrived here, but they did tell us that the bus load of migrants is going to be taken to a safe location, a refugee center of sort, where they will be fed, where they can bathe, and they will be able to sleep comfortably through the night. I did overhear one of those organizers talking to the group in Spanish. She told them that tomorrow they were going to meet with them individually to discuss what the next steps are. Some of them do have family here in Chicago. There's about 10 of them that stayed behind and didn't go on that bus. This was a non-service CTA bus. They stayed behind because they actually had family picking them up here in Chicago. I did speak to one gentleman who was reunited with his brother. They are also from Venezuela, but his brother lives and works here in Chicago. They were able to be reunited after 2 months of making the journey to Texas, and they were headed home to his brother's home. So right now we don't know the location of where they are headed, but we do know that they're headed somewhere safe and somewhere where they will be given meals, showers, and to have all of their immediate needs taken care of.
Marybel, just to back up a little bit, for those who have been following this, Governor Abbott of Texas has actually been doing this for months. He's been busing migrants to Washington, D.C. starting back in April, and the last number I saw was that somewhere around 6,000 or more migrants had been sent to D.C. alone. And since then, they have also now started busing migrants to the New York City area. This is an effort by Governor Abbott, I guess we would call it twofold. Number one, he's trying to make a point clearly to cities and states that are sanctuary cities and have defended these migrants who are coming in, and also trying to, I think, share with the nation and other cities and countries that aren't on the border, like Texas is, some of what they've been dealing with for months. So one of the questions I have for you, Marybel, is that the city here knew this particular bus was coming, correct?
Yeah, so we got a statement from the state of Illinois. They said they were aware that the bus was coming back on August 26th. They were informed by several federal agencies that this would be happening. And like you mentioned, Governor Greg Abbott has said that the borders are overwhelmed. And so he's putting the burden of what he calls the burden onto other cities, now Chicago. We also know that it's because Chicago is labeled a sanctuary city that Governor Abbott is saying that he will be sending migrants here to Chicago, in addition to the cities of Washington, D.C., and also to New York.
Marybel, you know, we are hearing from the governor, also from the mayor's office, acknowledging that they knew about the migrants coming as well. You were there as many of them were arriving. From Governor Abbott's tweet, though, he says this is the first bus. Do you have any indications that there could be additional arrivals coming, given that Governor Abbott has already sent thousands into the D.C. area, and now New York is dealing with it as well?
Yeah, we don't know for sure if there are more people coming, whether that's tonight or in the days to come. But in our statement that when we reached out to the state of Illinois, they did say that they were expecting about 40 people, so more than the amount that we saw tonight. So I do expect that we'd be seeing more of these migrants coming into Chicago, but we don't know for sure when that will happen or if this is an ongoing thing that will be happening throughout the days or even weeks as we see more migrants arriving to the border.
Marybel, we also got a statement from the governor's office saying Illinois welcomes refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants, and we are working with federal and city officials to ensure that these individuals are treated with respect and safety as they look to connect with their family and friends. The governor, Abbott, the one we've talked about from Texas, had written an op-ed in the New York Post that said any migrant who boards a bus has signed an agreement to be transported and also provided food and water on the journey. Did you hear that from any of the folks you spoke with tonight? Was this something that they had signed and agreed to do?
So anecdotally, I did ask a few of them how they even got here, what was the process of getting here and getting on the bus. One gentleman from Venezuela told me that they weren't given a choice, that he just arrived at the border, that border officials there told him, get on this bus, you're headed to Chicago. He didn't have any family here or any ties or connections to the city. So he said he just got on the bus and he made that journey here to the city of Chicago. But I did speak to another gentleman also from Venezuela, and I should say the majority of the people who arrived here today are from Venezuela, is what we're hearing, and also what I'm hearing from speaking to this group. But the second gentleman that I spoke to, he actually showed me his paperwork. He had a summons to appear in court at Federal Plaza for a future date, and it really didn't have much more information other than that. Now, he told me this isn't the first time he tries to make it to the U.S. border. He previously tried, and he said that before they didn't have the option to go to Chicago, but today he was surprised to see that two buses opened up to come to the city of Chicago. Now, I asked him what that journey was like. Did they make any stops? Were they fed along the way? He said none of that happened. He said they ate a meal before they left, which was yesterday at 5 o'clock. They stopped at 10 a.m. to grab something very quickly, but they weren't giving a full meal. They weren't really giving much rest. They just traveled along the way. So as far as we can tell, that did not happen, but this is just coming from the anecdotes of the people who actually were on that bus.
Yeah, Marybel, part of the response from the mayor's office through her communications deputy, they're saying that this isn't something new, that this is something that Chicago has done even prior to Governor Abbott sending this first bus. And part of their statement saying that this is not new. Chicago welcomes hundreds of migrants every year to our city and provides much needed assistance. However, you know, the nuances here are definitely different in that what you're saying these people are going through, being robbed before they go on this journey. And you mentioned that there could be children here, pregnant women. Did you see anyone in a state where there seemed to be concern for their safety or needing any kind of medical attention?
Yeah, I didn't see that yet, and we should also say there were people from the Office of Emergency Management that were here guiding this group onto the buses. It looked to be that they had help available if that was needed. We didn't see any ambulances here. We didn't see anybody in dire need of health care. We do know that there were some pregnant women here on this journey. We also saw little babies that were traveling with their parents. I did speak to a gentleman who got separated from his pregnant wife. She ended up going to New York. He ended up here in Chicago. So as far as we know, there weren't any immediate concerns that needed to be addressed as soon as they got off the bus. But like I mentioned previously, we did speak to somebody who was going to be taking them to that refugee center, to that asylum center, who said they were going to get bathed, they were going to get the food that they needed. A lot of them did tell me that they were hungry. They asked us if we had any food to share with them. They hadn't eaten for quite some time. So we do know that that is the case for some of the folks here on the bus, but we don't know of any immediate healthcare needs that were required or any sort of medical attention that was required immediately.
Marybel, I know we're asking you a lot of questions and you probably didn't have a lot of time with these folks who arrived here tonight, but I'm curious, were you able to ask any of them where they crossed, how they crossed. Did they cross illegally, or did they come seeking asylum and actually get processed? It sounds like at least some of them had a court date to appear later, which is what happens typically when you do seek asylum.
Yeah, so I actually asked one of the gentlemen. He wasn't seeking asylum per se, but they did report. I used to work along the border. This is along the Rio Grande Valley, and the way that it happened there, which I'm imagining is a similar process just from speaking to these folks, is that they show up to nonprofit organizations. There's people at the border waiting for them to provide that care for them and to help them navigate through their immigration and their legal process. We asked them, and they said at least the people we spoke to, they showed up and they spoke with someone who had a nonprofit in Texas who helped them coordinate on getting them on these buses. But it does seem to be that there is some sort of procedure in place. One of the gentlemen I was speaking to you all about just shortly, he actually showed me his paperwork. So he did have a court date. He was ordered to appear in court, and this is to get his immigration case started, and they will decide there whether he will be allowed to stay in the United States pending that immigration case or if he will be deported.
And Marybel, if we go back to the first buses that came into D.C., and Joe, as you were mentioning, it's to the point where there were thousands now. The mayor there, Mayor Bowser, actually reached out to the National Guard on 2 occasions requesting additional assistance. We're not at that point yet, but it does seem, according to the governor's tweet or his response there to our request for information, that they do believe that additional people will be coming in from Cuba, in addition to Venezuela and Nicaragua. So we will stay on top of this and work to see if more buses will be heading to the Chicago area.
All right, Marybel, thank you. We're going to let you.
We'll definitely keep an eye on that as well.
Right. I know things are unfolding there as well, and I know we'll learn much more over the course of the next 50 minutes or so before we go on the air for the CBS 2 News at 10 o'clock. In the meantime, thank you very much for the update, and we'll be talking with you at the top of the hour. Thanks, Marybel.
And you have been watching CBS News Chicago as we bring you breaking news on buses. A bus, at least one, possibly 2, arriving in the Chicago area from the Texas border area. We will continue to follow this, as Joe mentioned, and bring you updates here on our streaming news service as they become available. And we also have our 10 o'clock news, of course, coming up in just under 45 minutes. So we will see you then as well. We'll be right back.